The Department of Health and Human Services and the DOJ just released new guidelines about that. They're explaining what symptoms of long COVID-19 could qualify as a disability. So what are they? Well, according to the Department of Health and Human Services, long COVID can be a disability if it, quote, substantially limits one or more major life activities. That could mean physical or mental impairments, like lung damage that makes it hard to breathe, or brain fog that limits your mental functioning. Now, if your long COVID qualifies as a disability, what rights do you have under the Americans with Disabilities Act? Well, you're entitled to the same protections as someone with any other disability. That could mean a variety of accommodations at work, school, or other situations. Now, if you want to find out more about that, it's real simple. Just text the word guidance to 202-895-5599.